Today is July 23rd, 2023. Michael Cook speaking. Making this recording because I'm touching up on the job that I did yesterday. The area that I'm working on is in the shade right now, so it might be a little bit difficult to see. I don't know. It's sort of sunny out. I can't see the display all that well. But yeah, I'm going through, and you see how the edge of the sidewalk is visible now. What that means is that I can rake up all the refuse and pick up some of the trash. I know that some people they get paid to do this, which is why I made the video yesterday. And when they don't do it, what happens is the brush will grow over the sidewalk, and then it defeats the purpose of the sidewalk and everything. All I have is a rake and a broom and stuff, which is really all that's necessary. But this is like a job that needs to be done every once in a while. You get like a weed whacker or something, and then you just go. There's plenty of videos on YouTube that show how to do this, but you take the weed whacker and you just go between where the weeds and the grass are to the dirt. And the problem is that any machine that would try to do this right now would have a difficult time because of how many leaves are here, but also because of how much brush was here. So like I made a comment yesterday that the town of Clifton Park could pay me like $1,200 to do this, and maybe that's a high estimate. I'm not really sure. So I'm certain that some people would be like, yeah, $1,200 my ass. But the fact of the matter is that somebody is already getting paid to do this, and they're not doing it. So oftentimes what happens is here, let's focus on my face. Oftentimes what happens in our society is that people get paid to do a job, and then they bullshit their way out of having to do it, and then people judge each other based on their appearance and their reputation. If they've known some guy for like 20 years or something, they'll use that as an excuse, while some guy that they've known for like 20 or 30 years might be, lying. Lying, it's a serious problem in our country. People lie about stuff, and then they will try to say that, like, oh, well, Michael Cook didn't need to go and do all that work that he did because, I did it. Oh, it's taking credit for someone else's work. Oh, so they get paid to lie. Yeah, a lot of people in our society, they do this, where they get paid to lie to people. And, it's a sad state of affairs, because, this is just one small problem. And I highly doubt that a lot of people are really going to give a general rat's ass that I'm like going through and I'm doing all this shit. But, think about it like this. Someone's getting paid to do a fucking job, and they're not fucking doing it, and it causes people like me to have to, get a little upset and irritated with people because, like, the shit doesn't get done. Like, people paid for the fucking sidewalk and everything, right? People paid for the road that I zoomed in on up there. There isn't a sidewalk all the way down Route 9, but there is one right here. And what you can see is that I'm taking the initiative to do someone else's fucking job, right? And if it isn't somebody's fucking job, then it sure should be, right? Excuse my potty mouth language. I get a little frustrated by people that get paid to do a fucking job, and then they don't fucking do it. There's a lot of people in our society that I would wager that more people get paid to do a job that they're not doing, or they're doing it inadequately, or they're not doing it very efficiently, or they're exacerbating how long it would take to do the fucking job, and they get paid for every single hour that they drag it out. So you could meet somebody that gets paid a salary for 40 hours worth of work, but really the thick and thin of it is that they're only doing 4 hours worth of work. The other 36 hours are just sort of dicking around and not doing it. But then you get some guy like me who just comes in with a couple of simple tools, right? And, all this will be done at some point. I don't think that it's going to take me an hour like yesterday. I think it'll take me longer. I am a little sore from yesterday, but I'm going to go ahead and power through it and get it all done. It'll look nice when I'm done, and I'll record it there and then. And vlog. Today is July 23rd, 2023. It is currently 3:45 p.m. I made the last video earlier today at about 2:30 or I don't know. I think it said 2:30, maybe 2:15. Anyway, this is my progress report after about an hour and a half of just finishing what I started yesterday. You know, oftentimes people start a job and then they don't finish it, or they just don't do it at all, which causes people to start thinking about the Second Amendment. So I could imagine myself having being an instructor or a teacher for a classroom full of kids, and I would say, what is the First Amendment for, kids? To freely express yourself without fear of persecution or retaliation. Say that one more time, kids. To freely express yourself without fear of persecution or retaliation. All right, kids, now what is the Second Amendment for? The Second Amendment is for constituents to pick up arms and hold people accountable that get paid to do a job, but they don't do it. Say that again, kids. The Second Amendment is for citizens of the United States of America, or constituents, to pick up a weapon and hold people in the government or elsewhere accountable for being paid to do a job that they're not doing. So I'm like exacerbating what that's for, but yeah, basically I am sort of like capitalizing on this situation. You know, no one's really going to give a shit that I did all this. You know, maybe some people will, like the people that are like passing behind like the hotel over there, or peddlers, and they want to walk on the sidewalk that was paid for by people in the government, or by people, the constituents, or the residents of Clifton Park / Half Moon, right? And so I'll talk about what I did. I went through, there's still plenty more that I could do, but for the most part, I've cleaned up the sidewalk, and it's visible from like, the edges are visible. And a lot of the leaves have been picked up. They're right there, a lot of dirt's there. Someone's gonna have a fun time cleaning up all of that. But I would imagine that the rain will come and it'll get the dirt out of the leaves there if nobody picks it up. I would imagine someone will probably leave this stuff sitting around for a while. Or what somebody could do is the town of Clifton Park could pay me like $1,200 for doing all this, and then what I could do is, you know, get rid of all that shit that's right there, right? And then I'll get paid to do a job that I will do, since I've already proven that I can do it. Technically, this counts as like a job interview. If I wanted to go get a job at like a landscaping company and like show them that I have initiative and that I will go ahead and do a job that someone was getting paid to do, but they weren't fucking doing it, well, this is a great example of how to show somebody, right, that I'm worthy of being hired as a landscaper. But being a landscaper is not my expertise. You know, it's just like one thing that I know how to do, because I'm not a dumbass and I am not lazy and I'll do stuff. You know, a lot of people like to say that you need to be getting paid for doing something in order for what you're doing to matter. But that's bullshit. A lot of times people get paid to do a job and they don't do it, or they suck at doing it, or they don't have any talent, and they just get the job because their friend hired them, or they were very friendly in a job interview, and like they might like suck ass at doing the job or whatever, right? Meanwhile, you know, someone that's like a very seasoned veteran at doing a job, they'll have the job interview and they won't get the job, but then they'll hire somebody that has next to no experience. That's why you'll see in a lot of job applications, no experience necessary. You know, work for the government or the military, and you know, do like a cybersecurity boot camp, and in 10 weeks you'll be a professional working with a bunch of professionals, right? Or you walk into like military installations, or a national security agency, or any place that deals with computers, right? And I will like probably have a lot more experience and knowledge than a lot of the people that already work there. You know, a lot of people will say, you gotta do the stuff that John Hammond talks about on YouTube in order to get into cybersecurity. Well, no, not necessarily. You could have a Microsoft certified professional certification, or have studied security engineering or system administration like I have as far back as 2001. And you can have a wide portfolio of things that you do have on your resume, a bunch of places that you've worked with relative experience. And, you know, at some point, someone will realize that, you know, why do you use the language that you do? You really shouldn't be swearing and stuff. Well, I forget who says this, but in New York and Chicago, I'm frank and I'm earnest. In New York, I'm frank, and in Chicago, I'm earnest. Basically, what that says is that, you know, I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff. I'm going to tell people how things really are. I'm going to give them my honest opinion. I'm going to tell them, like, what's on my mind. I'm not going to hold any punches. I'm going to tell them right to their face the same things that I would say, like, without them being around. And a lot of people in society, they lack this quality because they're trained or they're raised to think that, like, if you have nothing nice to say, then say nothing at all. You know, what that means is that, like, in the corporate world, a lot of people have to be very deceptive towards one another. And so, like, I'm not saying that everybody in the industry is deceptive, but what I am saying is that there are a lot of deceptive people in society, and they think that they're slick. They think that they're going to, like, pull one over on somebody that knows better. And knowing better takes time. Young kids, even like this kid who is 14 and he works at SpaceX now. He might be a really smart kid, he might be a genius and everything, but it takes time to observe like personality quirks of people in order to understand like psychological aspects or personality traits and things like that, and how it applies to psychological manipulation, and how people will say one thing and then they'll do another thing. And oftentimes what happens is people play favorites of one another, right? And you know, people will play favorites, and you know, I have no doubt in my mind that someone's gonna get really irritated by these two videos that I made yesterday and today, and how I went ahead and did somebody's job, and you know, I should be paid to do the job that they were getting paid to do, but since they weren't doing it, I went ahead and did it for them. But they'll probably still get paid for doing the job. And that's why the Second Amendment exists, actually, is because why is somebody getting paid to do a job that they're not fucking doing? End log. Continuing from the last video that I recorded earlier, like quick speaking, I'm not going to keep the camera pointed towards me for the time being, because I know that every time I do that, it's harder to hear me. But one thing that I noticed when I reviewed the video that I recorded earlier, here's the sidewalk again, the shade and whatever. The Church of Christ, NSBS School, left at the light. So I'm going to show you what that sign goes to, and that the sign should be taken down, and you know, the place doesn't exist anymore, and it hasn't for a while. But that just goes to show you how observant I am, right? I'll notice problems that other people just kind of like drive right by and they don't even notice. You know, I don't even like know how else to phrase it, right? You know, I was thinking about this guy Bruce Tansky earlier, the guy who owns like Snyder's and Fairways at Half Moon, committed loan application fraud with the former Town of Half Moon supervisor Melinda Wormuth and a bunch of other people, co-conspirators and stuff. And you know, like I was thinking about all of you know, I don't think that like he's an evil bastard. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that are far worse than Bruce. You know, even my worst suspicions about him, they don't really compare to like a lot of real evil bastards. But you know, Bruce has been a pretty nice guy every time that I've talked to him. He used to work with Tim Lindsay at Falcon Trace, installing the siding when that place was being built and everything. That's when Bruce was being investigated. And you know, I'm not going to talk about all of those things, but you know, a lot of people, they like when someone like me will make the time to talk highly about them, or like complimenting them, or saying how cool they are, or that they're not a bad guy or whatever, focusing on like the better aspects of what they do. So I was also thinking about how And I grew up with Zach Doro, his sister Kelly Papa, and Courtney Doro. Well, I didn't really grow up with her. Well, Kelly Papa, I used to talk with her a lot at school and everything. Tim Wenzy, a bunch of other people. Lee Davenport Jr., God rest his soul. And also think about like Doug Bagley, you know, even him. I might be like sort of pissed off at him for a few things in the past, but the thick and thin of it is that I don't think that he's an inherently evil douchebag that's worthy of you know, a bunch of negative commentary and whatever. But you know, there are some people that do deserve to be called out and blasted for certain behaviors and stuff. And some of those behaviors resort to like people being indifferent or just people being really oblivious or not paying attention to what the hell is going on around them or whatever. Right? And you know, I spend a lot of time like riding around on my bike. Right? Because I get a lot of exercise when I do it. I've owned many vehicles before and they all break down. They're all engineered to sort of like break down over time, and then you got to spend money on maintenance and everything, and the mechanics can lie to you about like the problems that they fix. You get a bumper-to-bumper warranty like I had at North Star Chevrolet for my 2004 Pontiac Grand Prix. And then after the warranty expires at 100,000 miles, the engine dies at 107,000 miles. And then the transmission dies at 135,000 miles. Right? Cars are engineered to break down and stuff. I'm not going to really talk about all that. What I want to talk about are how like people get paid to do a job and they don't do it. Sort of like extending the thing that I was talking about earlier in this audio, the video. Right? I'm not recording an audio recording. I'm still talking like I would in all my audio recordings, but you know, I'm giving visual stimulations. People can see what the hell I'm doing and where I'm going and everything. I have a couple of objectives in this particular video. The first and foremost being like that sign that I just indicated back there, and how like this land up here and the Church of Christ. The sign is still there, but the place isn't. It hasn't been for years. But like, has anyone thought to take that sign down? Well, that's how observant I am. Is if I'm recording footage or whatever and I review it and I'm like, wait a minute, why is that sign there? Or why is that there? Why is that other thing there? You know, why is the NISEG meter at the cell tower at Parkford Drive or Solar Drive, why does it say 0? And you know, some people will jump up and make excuses for like NISEG and say that's what the meters are supposed to do, dude. Now, the meters aren't supposed to say a stagnant 0. They're supposed to like randomly, they're supposed to reset every like little bit so that it shows activity. But I recorded a video on May 24th, 2020 that tells a totally different story about how somebody had a meter that was getting free power. Right? I'm not going to talk about that. But, you know, here's the place where the Church of Christ used to be, which hasn't been here for years. And, you know, the sign is still back there. Right? I would wager that there's plenty of signs that went to this place, all over the place. You know, some code enforcement officer like Greg Hebert at the town of Half Moon, is he gonna like do something about the sign being there still? No, he's not gonna do a goddamn thing about that sign still being there. You know, I don't want to write off like basically everybody that I talk about, because that's not what I'm attempting to do here. I got a lot of fond memories of the people that I rattled off. Not Greg Hebert, but you know, some people aren't inherently evil bastards or whatever, but when you think about like the 7 deadly sins, like sloth, jealousy, envy, gluttony, And a few other ones that I can't think of right now. Wrath. And those are 5, I think. And these 7 deadly sins basically boil down to like certain people being enshrouded with getting what they want over other people, and like some people's wants, they override other people's needs. And the reason that this happens is because it's human nature. It's the human condition. The human condition sort of explains why these things happen, and it also explains why people will make up excuses and stuff. I don't want to talk about like a whole number of subjects in this recording. I thought about like what I was going to say in this recording and try to get it all in one continuous recording and whatever. All right. Yeah, so where I'm headed right now are where a couple of Verizon Fios cables or splitters are hanging out on the ground, and they're not supposed to be there. They're supposed to be like up on the poles and stuff. The reason being is that if they're on the ground, then the inclement weather can damage them. Snow accumulates and then it melts, it creates ice, and then the ice can actually crack the fiber optic cables and stuff. But also, like, people might get into an accident and then smash into the cables, and then a bunch of people are not going to have internet, so people won't have a way to dial 911, or people won't be able to contact certain businesses or agencies. And a lot of things depend on the internet. So these things, basically what I'm getting at is the engineers got paid to do that job, but they didn't do it correctly. They got paid very well to install the cables. Verizon, the company, which used to be Bell Atlantic back in the day. Some people think that Verizon and Bell Atlantic are totally different companies, dude. No, it's the same company. It became Verizon at some point in time, and also AT&T is also Bell Atlantic. Like they split off or whatever. So like, suppose like the New York Yankees split up into 2 teams, right? Since they have the most like World Series championship rings, and like half of the team was the New York Yankos, and the other team was the New York Yankos. The Yankos and the Yankos are basically Verizon and AT&T, and I am almost at this place where the splitter is sitting on the ground, and I recorded a number of videos and pictures back in May of 2020 that sort of showed this happening back then. How like some people were getting the Verizon Fios service back in 2020, but like it wasn't generally offered officially by the company or whatever. Right, so like here it is. I made a video about this I don't know, a week or 2 ago. Well, that's not supposed to be there. No, do you want to know where that's supposed to be? It's supposed to be up there. So somebody installed this incorrectly, and they're just letting it sit around. So anybody could have an accident with that, and then cause a service disruption to a lot of people around here, right? Some people get paid to make sure shit like that doesn't happen, but then it continues to happen because some people get paid to do a job and they don't do the job. Same sort of theme. That's the reason why I came here. And there's another like instance of it happening up here. So like some of the cables were underground at some point, but like the thing is having cables underground or like through the ground causes them to be susceptible to damage and stuff. It's not much different from like being up on the poles, but the thing is at least if it's up in the poles, you don't have to worry so much about like the internet connectivity being disrupted if these are up in the air. It's an older version of a splitter, but it's Verizon. It's got the Verizon band on it. Here, let's just to make sure that like some people that need glasses want to know that this says Verizon right here. See how it says 1-800 Verizon, and see how it's not orange, it's red. I don't know, maybe some people are colorblind or whatever, but I don't know. You know, it says Verizon right on there. So, case in point, some people get paid to do a job and they don't do it. Or they do a really terrible job. And they still get paid to do the job anyway, because a lot of people, they rest on their laurels. You know, back in 1995, hold on, I'm trying to like get on the bike here. Back in 1995, Bill Gates, the co-founder of the Microsoft Corporation, he wrote a book called The Road Ahead. And in the book, The Road Ahead, Bill Gates makes a lot of predictions about how the world would eventually be and how it would eventually have the information superhighway. And he talks about like fiber optic cables and stuff. Bill Gates is a really smart guy. You know, I think over the years he's caught a lot of flack for some stuff, but you know, all things considered, I think that he's done the world considerable service. Right? It doesn't mean that like I'm a fanboy 5000 at everything that he's done, but you know, like some people go around like pretending like they're the good guys, and they're not the good guys. And Bill Gates is not one of those people. You know, he like I really don't want to make this about him. I really want to make this more about like how one of the phrases that he wrote in the book was like people resting on their laurels, and how like the computing industry, well, it used to be before the Altair 8800, the guys like Bill Gates and Paul Allen had to go to the computer lab all the time and spend a bunch of money to use the computer lab, and then have to spend a lot of time compiling the code that they wrote, and like they would spend a lot of money doing this. Now today you don't really have to do that, because guys like him, they got in a room with Paul Allen and they had this race where they would they would each sit in front of their own keyboard terminal, and they would like start pounding away. They'd be like, we'll have a race, Bill. And then Paul was like, you're on, dude. They would start pounding away at the keyboard. They'd be like, whoever writes all this code first and gets it to compile wins. And then Bill Gates would adjust his glasses and be like, all right, dude, you're on. You know, Bill Gates was really good at poker, and he skipped a lot of classes when he was attending Harvard. And he had this game where he would like try to attend the least amount of classes and get the highest possible grade while going and kicking guys' asses at poker. You know, I wrote up this skit about how like the kids at his school would call him Billy Gates. Oh yeah, Billy Gates, you're on, dude. But anyway, yeah, him and Paul Allen would like have these races where they would just start pounding away at the keyboard, and you know, with sheer intensity and sweat beating off of their foreheads, they would pound away at the keyboards, building the first version of BASIC for the Altair 8800. And then when they were done, the job was done. And then, you know, they managed to earn themselves accolades pretty young, you know, from a really young age and whatever. And, you know, how does that apply to like some people get paid to do jobs that they're not doing or whatever? Well, a lot of people rest on their laurels. That was the whole entire point of me talking about him. Not that he is resting on his laurels. I think that he's made it very clear that like he is not complacent with really anything that he does. He's always trying to expand and do more. And it's a shame that like a lot of people in society, they don't take the time to do this. I think a lot of that comes down to, is it still recording? Yeah, I can't even see the display. A lot of this comes down to the fact that the way the economy works and the way the government like controls people through the economy, and like a number of other things that I mentioned in other audio recordings and videos, it causes people to you know, lack this insight into how a lot of what they do is just furthering someone's bottom line. And that's why capitalism has some serious problems, right? Like I think I'm going to call it quits on this particular video, and I'm going to put it all together and then compile the video and then upload it, and yeah. So what was the point of this video? Just talk about how like sometimes things are hidden in plain sight for people to see, And a lot of people get paid to do a job that they're not doing. A lot of people rest on their laurels and they get paid to do this. A lot of people are in certain positions to do a job, and they're just respected because of who they are, not because of what they've done. Or like, they think that like, in the case of like a veteran that's fought in like Vietnam War or Afghanistan, that's always going to be the case, that they can rest on their laurels because they fought for the country and they may have like lost a limb or an appendage or friends. There's a very high possibility of that. But like when it's somebody who's like some dipshit judge who like, ignores clues and details and evidence and etc. and so forth, like Joe Federa. When he sent me to go see Dr. Glossman and Dr. Gerbic on February 23rd, 2023, what they did was basically they committed fraud. And I'll explain what they did. I used to be a patient at Saratoga County Mental Health for a pretty long time. And at no point whatsoever did anyone say that I was delusional. Nope, not at all. And I even had an evaluation with a guy who works at Saratoga County Mental Health and is the former director of Four Winds, and his name is Samuel Bastian. And the man spent 3 hours asking me a whole bunch of questions about my life and evaluating me, which is what Dr. Gerbic and Dr. Glossman were supposed to do at the 7:30 hearing, but they didn't do that. And I had to educate them on what the First Amendment of the Constitution is for, as well as the Second Amendment of the Constitution. And at the end of this fucking 10-minute evaluation, I said to Dr. Gerbic, the woman, I said, it's a good thing that winter is almost over. And she's like, what are you talking about? We still have April before winter's over. So allow me to introduce how fucking stupid that is. Winter ends in March. It doesn't end in April. If someone thinks that winter ends in April, it's because they're stupid. And they're making an assumption that because sometimes there's often snow or cold weather in April, that it's still winter. And that is like basically the epitome of the evaluation that I got at fucking what the hell? Saratoga County Mental Health, right? It's like some people are fucking stupid. Do I want to say that like any of these two cops right here, that either one of them are fucking dumb? No, I don't fucking know either one of them like by looking at them. But like if I hear something like the things that they say and they sound fucking moronic, then I will say that. I will add them to the list of people that I think, just because someone has a fucking badge or drives around in a cop car or has an investigator badge or is a judge or has a doctorate or a PhD or they're whatever, a lawyer, they passed the bar exam. Sometimes like people like those that I just mentioned, they rest on their laurels. And that means that they will sometimes gloss over details and they will make careless assumptions and they will fast track a diagnosis and diagnose somebody with delusional disorder that doesn't have delusional disorder and also has a bunch of videos and stuff of like pixels being added to a line of characters in the word editor that I would use. These are things that I mentioned to Dr. Gerbic and Dr. Glossman, but then they like fast track this fucking Michael Cook's delusional diagnosis. After I told them about the audio recording that I recorded of altercation between me and my mother on June 28, 2022. Yeah, these two doctors at the Saratoga County Mental Health, they're fucking stupid. And I told them about the audio recording. I also told the state police about the audio recording before they made the arrest. But sometimes you gotta like believe in, George Carlin. Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups, because large groups, they can sometimes act like a virus, and they will make careless assumptions, and they will say stuff like, well, if they were trying to kill you, you'd be dead by now, which is a fallacy. Or if you were smart, you'd be rich by now, which is a fallacy, or some other stupid fucking fallacy like that, right? You know, basically what I'm getting at is people have holes in the way that their logic operates, and it varies on a case-by-case basis, and it can be, when it's observed and recorded, then it can be conveyed to other people, and that's pretty important, because, you know, I talked about like Julian Assange in the video that I made the other day, right? Talked about Julian Assange. Julian Assange exposed collateral murder. Bradley Manning / Chelsea Manning like exposed the video of New Baghdad, Iraq, which was basically when the United States Air Force military killed about a dozen innocent people in New Baghdad, Iraq in 2007. You know, I didn't really talk about how like the CIA or like people in Italy and Britain, they sort of like framed Saddam Hussein for like the yellow cake situation, from buying yellow cake from Niger. No, the yellow cake is content for making uranium nuclear weapons. That was all a fabrication in order for the United States to invade Iraq, and then like 7 other countries after that. And you know, what would like stop all these things from occurring is people doing what Julian Assange did, or what Edward Snowden did, where someone is abusing their authority or their power, and they need to be kept in check somehow. And that is what the First Amendment is for, and the Second Amendment is for, like, when the First Amendment fails, to basically grab arms and to hold people in the government accountable for when and where they have lapses in judgment, and they may, keyword may, if they can't be reasoned with, then they need to be like held responsible forcibly. And if the government has all the power and they have power over constituents and what people believe, then what happens is that nobody ever uprises against the government when they do malicious activities, like killing a bunch of innocent people in New Baghdad, Iraq, or like having a bunch of rich companies like Johnson & Johnson putting benzene into like sunscreen. I'll tell you what benzene does. Benzene is a carcinogen. It's a known carcinogen. And when it gets into somebody's body, it will help develop Hodgkin's lymphoma or some other sort of cancer. Not unlike what Hank Green from SciShow has, where he's being treated. Hodgkin's lymphoma is one of the most treatable cancers, right? And, what else does Johnson & Johnson have a holding in? Cancer research into developing a cure or a remedy for Hodgkin's lymphoma. So if they put the benzene in the sunscreen, they make money there, but then when people get cancer and they need treatment for Hodgkin's lymphoma, they make even more money by like by saving somebody's life. But if somebody doesn't have the money, then guess what? They die. And that's why I make a number of videos and recordings that I do, is because there are some evil fucking pricks in the world, and they need to be held responsible. The First and the Second Amendment allows for every constituent to have access to do that, but what you'll find is that sometimes a lot of people realize that they're up against all odds and back against the wall. They're outclassed, outmatched, outgunned. And what would change all that? Being able to form a militia and hold people responsible. That's what the Second Amendment is for. You know, forming a constitutional militia and holding people responsible. Anyway, that's going to do it for this particular video. And welcome.